And I will now introduce you to Content Graph by creating using a tutorial that I just created that exists in GitHub, and I'm calling it Create a Site with Strongly Typed Music Festival Content using React and Content Graph. So basically what we want to do here is that we want to use a backend site, the Music Festival site. You can find the Music Festival site in GitHub. Over here. So it's basically the backend side here where we have the CMS manager site and everything set up. So I've already prepared this. I have set this one up in Azure. After that, I also installed a NuGet package called Optimizely Content Graph CMS. I took the credentials for a specific or for my Content Graph account that I have. I took the credentials there and I put it in the configuration file. I then started the site in Azure where I put the site, and I did run the synchronization job for Content Graph to serialize or synchronize the content types and content over to the Content Graph service. So that's already prepared for everyone if you want to go ahead here and do the same tutorial that I will do right here. So we already have an account that is specified over here. So the first thing that I will do is that I will go in and follow the first step here. I'll just take and copy this one. What it will do is basically it will create an empty React app. I'm calling it Music Festival GraphQL here. And once that has been created, then we just have to go in there. We will just start the empty site and just make sure that it gets up and running so that doesn't give us any problem from the beginning. And after that, we will start to add a few more things to the site. We will add React Query and HTML React Parser before we're gonna go into the more interesting stuff. So I'm gonna go to the location here that I created. And let's go and just start the site. So now we expect it to be just a pure empty React site, as you know how it looks like. There we go. Perfect, it works. So then I'm gonna go in and, as I said, add the React query. And then I'm gonna add the HTML React parser, just because that one is a good thing to have here for this tutorial. So far we've just added a bunch of things here that we're gonna use later on. But now it's starting to be interesting because now we're gonna add something called code gen. Because the cool thing here with using Content Graph on a React site with some is that we will try to do this in a strongly typed way. So basically, we would like the application to call into the GraphQL service for the specific account, basically using the public key for the account. So it can fetch the schema and then create TypeScript types for us automatically based on what exists in the schema. And the schema basically are basically a copy of the content types that exists, rather a copy of how the content delivery API has been configured to work. So because of that, we will be able to work strongly against the content types. Okay, let's start here by just adding those dependencies over here. So it's several dependencies that we're gonna have to be able to do everything that we want. And this the code gen that I'm using, that's nothing that we at Optimizely have created. Basically, it's a big company behind this, and it's something that's being updated very frequently. It's not perfect, I would say, when I'm using it. Sometimes I've created some queries, and where I'm using the CodeGen, and it had some problems, especially when I'm using a lot of fragments in fragments in fragments. For you that haven't used GraphQL before, that doesn't make sense, the fragment, but you're gonna understand it later on. So now I'm gonna go in and create a CodeGen YAML file. And I'm gonna open the CodeGen file. There we go. And I'm gonna put this in there. And what I have here is the schema to the service. So everyone will have cd.optimizely.com/content/v2 here. The only difference is basically the public key there. I'm also going to say that I'm going to use the plugins TypeScript operations, and TypeScript React query. And I'm going to look for GraphQL queries that is located under source and ending with GraphQL. So I'm going to save this one. Perfect. Then I'm going to go into packages, and I'm going to say like, yes, I'm also using this one. Just going to update it. There we go. So it looks like something like this, and yes, it does. One thing that is also good to do is to install some form of GraphQL extension. So I have one extension here. There's a lot of different ones, and take one that fits your need basically, or what you like, but I have installed this one. It's by the GraphQL Foundation. So that one I've installed, so it's a little bit easier to work with GraphQL in Visual Studio Code. Then I'm gonna create two more folders, one under source GraphQL and one source GraphQL fragments. Okay, so now we're gonna go to the fragments folder. And in the fragments folder, we're gonna start to create a fragment. And a fragment is basically a partial query in GraphQL. So basically, you can create partial queries that you can use for many different queries in the future. Or maybe you're using a partial query several times from the same query. That's a good thing. Like, think about it like in CMS where you have blocks and pages, and block can be reused several times. So I will create a GraphQL file. I will go in there and I will take this one. So basically for music festival data, there's a landing page block data type, and there's some data in here. I have a heading and message. That's the most important thing there, I believe. I'm gonna go and then create a content block that exists on the music festival site. And I'm just gonna use the title, image alignment, and content from that one. Then I'm gonna create an image file. And then I'm gonna use the thumbnail URL, content, and URL. Of course, you can use what properties you like over here, but right now I'm just gonna go through this very quickly and add the things that exist here. So what's gonna be interesting soon is when I'm actually gonna compile this and check if my queries actually works as it should. What I can do also is that I can go to a similar URL. I can go to cdoptimizely.com app GraphQL, so eGraphQL, and then with my public key. And in here I can write code like this. Oh, sorry. And by that also get IntelliSense and stuff. So for example, I can create a fragment here, and I can say, oh, sorry, let's go for a query directly. And in here I can say like, I would like to look for artist container pages where, and so on. You can try this out yourself basically, and doing a lot of nice thing. But I will keep myself over here now, right now. Make sure to save that one, and then we're gonna go ahead, do the next one. We had a fragment there with a little bit more information. It was artist detail page, so it contains a little bit more. And then we have the landing page. So basically the first page, normally if you just go to the root of the site, this is information that is important. So basically the first thing that you should find if you Google and coming into music festival, I guess. Then I'm just gonna go down one level, and I'm gonna create start GraphQL query. And this one will use the fragments that I had before. I'm just gonna go through this a little bit so you understand it a bit better. So what do I do here? So I have a query called start. It could be called whatever. I have several parameters. I have relative path, locale. I have language, stage name, and artist. And those I'm not going to use right now, but you are welcome to do it. You could add any form of parameter here as well. It's basically just like you would use .NET and you're creating a method. Just create as many parameters that you like, and you can use it later on. Then I'm going to say that, okay, give me content. I'm not going to use any specific content types here. I'm just going to say, give me content, whatever it is. Where the local are the incoming local, where relative path, if there is one, is with the relative path that I'm getting in, and with the language name is the language. I'm just going to receive one content item here, but for that content item, for the main content item, I'm going to receive one main content item, I'm going to say, because then for that one, I'm going to ask for the name, URL, and what type it is, and the relative path. And in case that is a landing page, I would also like to have the landing page children of type artist container page. And for those, I would like to have name, relative path, and its children that is of type artist detail page. So basically, in this query now, I'm saying in case this matching over here is of a landing page, then I'm not gonna just get, you see here, I forgot from the beginning, I'm asking for the things in the language page fragment as well, which is over here, which has several properties you see here. But not only that, I'm also saying, except the properties that is actually on the landing page, I'm also would like to get the children that is type artist container page with some information, and that's children that is of type artist details page, where the stage name equals in parameter and artist type is for this one, and it's going to be ordered by this order. And then I'm going to get the artist detail page and some facets for that one. So in one query, I'm going to get all of this information in case it was a landing page. But what if it's not a landing page? What if I'm going into some subsection directly with the URL? So it's an artist container page. Well, then I'm going to do this thing that is over here. A little bit similar in this case, but it could be totally different. And if you go directly to a specific artist, then I'm only going to show the artist details page. Basically, in one query here, I can say like, if it's of this type, or if it's of this type, or if it's of this type, I'm going to get different kind of data. And I'm even going to get the children and the children's of the children of if it's of a type. So it's actually pretty complex and pretty good. But anyway, you can try to modify this and do it in different ways. But let's say that I will go in here and I would actually in this block just write something wrong. Let's do it like this first. And then I'm going down here, and what I'm going to do next is that I'm going to use yarn generate here. Oops, sorry. Yarn generate, and I'm going to execute that one. Let's see what's going to say. Ooh, the word error. What error could it be? Well, let's check out there. Oh, sorry. Now I'm. It says that here we have the relative path 2 in artist detail page. We're going in there. That was incorrect. Did you mean art relative path? Yeah, probably did. I'm gonna save that one. Sorry. And let's run it again. Oh, it went through. Perfect. So what happened now? Well, it created the generated.ts. So here we have all the types that I want for the queries that I have, including a way to execute this query in a very easy way. Okay, so what we're going to do next is that we're going to go to the index.tsx. And in here, I'm going to copy this information and replace the existing. It doesn't do much. It only creates a query client provider, basically. So nothing special here. It's just kind of React stuff. I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to open app TSX. And in here, I'm not going to do that fancy stuff actually in here as well, but let's go through the stuff that I'm doing. And then it's actually up to you guys to start using this. So the only thing that I'm going to say is like, okay, use this start query that was generated. And then I'm going to say, okay, of the incoming request that is coming, I'm going to just check it out a little bit and take out the language and the local from it if it exists. If there's nothing in the URL that's saying which language it is, then I'm going to say that English is the default one. And then I'm going to say, okay, use this start query, and I'm going to execute this query basically. And then I'm going to say relative path. You see here, it has this relative path. It also have like, what was it? Stage name, for example, but we don't have any stage name right now. But the relative path, I'm going to set it this one that I've calculated, local that I calculated in the language as well. And then I'm going to get back data here. And for the data, you can see here that I have content. I have this strongly typed now against the real data that exists in my service, and the service itself are kind of one-to-one mapping with how the content delivery API looks like, which is pretty cool. And in here, I can say like, okay, if the content type name equals, and this might look like a string type comparison in the beginning, but it's not, because look at TypeScript. You can only set artist container page or artist detail page or stuff in here, basically the types that we had in the queries. So if I'm setting a 2 here, it's actually not going to work. You're going to see directly that I'm actually getting compile error. But I'm going to say, okay, if it's a landing page, then I'm going to do something. Or if it's artist container page, then I'm going to do another thing, or artist detail page. And in here, you will also see that you can do some different things. Like you have the content dot, and what do I have here? I have the details page. Cool. So I can do that directly with with my HTML. What about here? If I'm using content dot, whoa, this is different. Here I have the actually artist container page with artists. And if I go on the top here, then I have the content dot the landing page properties. And in here, in the landing, I have the children. And for the children, I have the artist container pages. And then I can go down to the items. You see, based on where I am, I will be able to do different things and actually serve any of the incoming requests, any of the incoming URLs I will be able to handle, basically. I'm just going to save this one. And then I'm going to use yarn build to build this and just check that it's actually compiled, that I don't have any compile error here against my strongly typed data, because that's, of course, one of the big benefits here, that I'm going to have the compiler helping me out. And then I'm going to do yarn start to actually start this site again. As you can see here, there's not much that's going to be generated, right? So it's just going to generate empty things here. But basically, if I'm good go to English, it would be the same thing. But for this site, I know that there's a page called artists over here. And then it would load the artists, but it doesn't show anything right now. And we can also go in and go to one of the specific artists over here. Yeah, we're not going to see much because, as you see, we don't have anything there. but you can try to just add some properties there, and you're gonna see that stuff is gonna be rendered. So very easily to get started, strongly typed against your content type. You can create it in any language you like. We used React here with TypeScript. You can do it, you know, there's a lot of different kind of languages that has similar kind of auto-generated types and so on, even .NET, if you like to go .NET to .NET here, or whatever. And you can host it anywhere, basically, because if we support all the different languages, we support you to host it anywhere as well. So I hope this gave a good introduction, and happy coding, guys, and be careful.